Ever been told to drill all your holes for the day at once and then wait a good hour before you even think about dropping a line? That your gas auger is a dinner bell for, well, for absolutely nothing because you've just scared every fish into the next county? What if I told you that this piece of advice, passed down from one generation of anglers to the next, is one of the biggest lies in ice fishing? In this video, we are going to dive deep, right under the ice, to find out if fish can actually hear your auger from 100 yards away and if it truly causes them to shut down. By the time we're done, you'll understand the science, and you'll probably realize you've been wasting a lot of valuable time on the ice based on a complete myth. The real reason fish get spooked has almost nothing to do with the noise you're making above the ice. So let me know in the comments right now before we get into it. Do you believe your auger spooks the fish? A simple yes or no. I'm curious to see what you all think. This idea about auger noise is practically gospel in the ice fishing community. We've all heard it. The old-timers will tell you with absolute certainty that the roar of a two-stroke engine is like a depth charge going off underwater. They say you need to be quiet, be patient, and let the fish forget you were ever there. This belief seems to make perfect sense, doesn't it? We stand on the ice, we fire up the auger, and it's loud. It's incredibly loud to our ears, which are designed to hear in the air. So we naturally assume that for a fish living in a supposedly quiet world right below us, that sound must be apocalyptic. This thinking has shaped how thousands of us fish. We develop elaborate strategies to minimize noise, drilling far away from where we plan to fish, and then walking on eggshells. But here's the critical piece of the puzzle we often miss. The rules of sound are completely different in water than they are in air, and that thick sheet of ice between you and the fish changes the game entirely. First things first, let's get into the head of a fish. How do they actually perceive their world? It's not just with their ears. Fish have two primary ways of sensing sound and vibration. They have an inner ear, much like we do, which picks up on sound waves, but they also have a lateral line. This is a series of sense organs that run down the side of their body, and it's incredibly sensitive to water displacement and low-frequency vibrations. Think of it like a full-body sonar system. It's what helps them detect a struggling minnow from yards away or feel the presence of a larger predator approaching. So when we talk about what a fish hears, well, we are really talking about what it feels through its entire body. This is a crucial distinction because it's not about the high-pitched scream of your engine, but the low-frequency thump and grind that matters. They are feeling your presence more than they are hearing it in the way we understand hearing as humans. Now let's talk about the physics of it all. Sound in the air and sound in the water are two completely different beasts. When you fire up your auger, that loud, high-frequency whine travels through the air. You hear it, the guy fishing 200 yards away hears it. But for that sound to get to the fish, it has to cross a boundary. It has to go from the air, through the ice and snow, and into the water. This transition is incredibly inefficient. Most of that airborne sound energy, the stuff that hurts our ears, simply bounces off the surface of the ice and snow. It reflects back up into the atmosphere. It's like yelling at a concrete wall. The person on the other side might hear a faint mumble, but they won't hear your words. The same principle applies here. The fish is not hearing the engine's roar. It is not experiencing the same acoustic event that you are. The ice is a massive sound barrier. Think of the ice as the world's greatest soundproofing material. A foot of solid ice, maybe with another 6 inches of snow on top of it, is an incredible muffler. It dampens and absorbs a huge amount of sound energy. High-frequency sounds, like the scream of a two-stroke engine, are particularly bad at penetrating solid objects. They get scattered and absorbed very quickly. So the primary noise you're making, the part that we perceive as being the loudest and most offensive, barely even registers in the underwater world. It's a non-factor. What does get through, however, is direct vibration. The physical act, the auger blades grinding, chipping, and cutting through the ice. That creates a direct physical vibration that travels down through the ice and into the water column. This is what the fish are actually sensing with that amazing lateral line we talked about. It's not the engine, it's the cutting. So, what kind of sound does get through this ice barrier? It's the low-frequency stuff, the deep, guttural vibrations. Imagine you're at a stoplight and a car pulls up next to you with a massive subwoofer system. You don't hear the singer's voice or the melody of the song. What do you hear? You hear and feel that deep, rhythmic thump, thump, thump of the bass line. Your whole car seems to vibrate with it. That is a perfect analogy for what the fish is experiencing. The auger blades biting into the ice create a low-frequency, percussive vibration. The fish doesn't hear a motor. It feels a rhythmic thump-thump grind as you drill. This is the only part of the auger's operation that efficiently transfers into their world. Understanding this changes everything. We've been worrying about the wrong kind of noise this whole time. We're focused on the scream when we should be thinking about the thump. Now for the million-dollar question, how do fish interpret this thumping vibration? Does it automatically signal danger and send them fleeing? The answer is almost certainly no. Let's think about the natural underwater environment. It is not a silent, peaceful library. It is a world filled with constant low-frequency noise and vibration. The ice itself groans, cracks, and pops as temperatures change. That sound is incredibly loud underwater. Beavers slap their tails on the surface, a signal that travels a long way. Muskrats are digging. Ducks and geese are landing on the water. Other, larger fish are chasing smaller fish, creating sudden bursts of vibration. A fish is constantly being bombarded with these kinds of signals. They are conditioned to it. It's the normal soundtrack of their life. An auger cutting through the ice is, to them, just another strange vibration in a world already full of them. Let's put ourselves in the fish's fins for a moment. You're a walleye suspended a foot off the bottom. You feel a rhythmic vibration starting up somewhere above you. Is your first instinct to panic and swim 100 yards away? Unlikely. That vibration could mean anything. It could be the ice shifting. It could be another animal. Often, vibrations can signal an opportunity. A struggling creature, something falling onto the ice and then into the water. These events create vibrations that can attract curious or hungry fish. They may actually move towards the source of the sound to investigate, not away from it. Think about how many times you've had a fish hit your lure the second it gets to the bottom of a newly drilled hole. If they were truly terrified and fleeing the area, that would never, ever happen. They are often curious, not terrified. The idea that they universally interpret this one specific vibration as a mortal threat just doesn't hold up. And what about that magical distance of 100 yards? This number gets thrown around like a law of physics, but it's based on absolutely nothing. The energy from a vibration, just like a ripple in a pond, dissipates with distance. The further you are from the source, the weaker the signal becomes. Right underneath the auger, sure, the vibration is intense, but at 50 yards, it's much weaker. At 100 yards, the vibration signature from your auger has faded so much that it's likely indistinguishable from the background noise of the lake. It blends in with the sounds of the ice groaning, the water currents, and other aquatic life. To believe a fish 100 yards away is spooked by your auger is like believing you'd be spooked by a car door slamming 3 blocks away. You might notice it for a split second, but it doesn't impact your behavior in any meaningful way. It's just a fleeting, distant noise. So, if the auger isn't the monster we've made it out to be, then what is actually spooking the fish? This is the most important part of the entire video. The real culprits are the things we do immediately after the hole is drilled. The problem isn't the auger you ran 2 minutes ago. The problem is you right now standing over the hole. The biggest factor by far is light. Imagine you've been living in a dimly lit room your entire life. Suddenly someone blasts a giant concentrated beam of sunlight directly into your home. It would be shocking, disorienting, and you would immediately move away from it. That is exactly what happens when your auger breaks through the bottom of the ice. You introduce a massive column of bright light into a dark, low-light environment. This is unnatural and alarming for any creature, especially a prey animal like a perch or crappy. This effect of sudden light is massively amplified in shallower water. Let's say you're fishing in 6 to 10 feet. Under the ice, it's already quite dark. When that 10-inch hole opens up, it's like a stadium spotlight turning on. Any fish directly below or nearby is going to react instantly. They don't know what it is, but it's a drastic and sudden change to their environment, and their instinct is to move away to a place that feels safer and more normal. They'll dart to the side, out of the main cone of light. They haven't been scared away to the other side of the lake. They've likely just moved 10 or 15 feet away into the shadows. You drop your lure down and mark nothing, and you think, darn, that auger scared them all away. No, the sudden blast of sunlight you created is what made them reposition. They are probably still close by, just not directly in the spotlight. The second major factor is your shadow. This is something we rarely think about, but from a fish's perspective, it's terrifying. Fish are constantly looking up. They have to watch for predators from above, birds like loons, ospreys, or eagles. Their brains are hardwired to recognize that a sudden, large, dark shape passing overhead means danger. So, after you drill your hole, you walk over to it. You bend down to scoop out the slush. As you do this, your silhouette, your shadow, passes directly over that bright column of light. To a walleye or a perch looking up, this is the classic signal of a predator about to strike. It's a primal, instinctual trigger that screams danger. They don't stick around to analyze it. They bolt. Again, they may only move a short distance, but they are certainly not going to be sitting calmly and waiting for your bait to drop down. And what about the vibrations you make with your own body? We worry so much about the auger, but we forget about our own 2 feet. Stomping around on the ice with heavy boots creates sharp, sudden, and unpredictable vibrations. Unlike the rhythmic, steady hum of an auger, the sound of footsteps is erratic. More importantly, it's happening directly overhead. This is a much more immediate and localized threat. Think about it. A distant, steady rumble is one thing. A sharp thump, thump, thump right on your ceiling is something else entirely. It's a clear signal of something big close by and moving. This is far more likely to put fish on high alert than the sound of an engine running 100 feet away. Every time you shift your weight, drop your gear on the ice, or walk around your hole, you are sending a direct signal to the fish below that you are there. We have all seen this happen in real time on our electronics. It's the ultimate proof. You drill a hole, drop your flasher transducer in the water, and you mark a fish sitting right on the bottom. You get excited, you reach for your rod, and in the process, you shift your feet on the ice. You take one heavy step. And what happens on the screen? Poof! The red line marking that fish just vanishes. It's gone. What scared it? It wasn't the auger you used 5 minutes ago. It wasn't a bad memory of the engine noise. It was the immediate, sharp vibration from your boot hitting the ice just a few feet above its head. You spooked it. Your movement, your direct presence is what sent that fish swimming away. This is the evidence we need to be paying attention to. The real threat is not the tool, but the user. Let's put this all together into a clear picture. The old myth tells us that the loud auger is the problem and that distance and time are the solutions. Drill far away and wait a long time. But the reality is almost the exact opposite. The auger's airborne noise is mostly irrelevant. The real problem is a combination of 3 things that happen right at the hole, immediately after you drill. It's the sudden, shocking blast of light. It's the terrifying predator shadow passing overhead. And it's the sharp, close proximity vibrations from you moving around. The problem isn't 100 yards away. The problem is a 0 to 10 foot radius right around your fishing hole. We have been focusing on a distant, misunderstood threat while ignoring the immediate and obvious one that we ourselves are creating with our every move. It's a classic case of misdirection. So what is the practical takeaway from all of this? How does this change the way we should fish on the ice? For starters, you can stop worrying so much about drilling all your holes at the crack of dawn and then waiting an hour for things to settle down. You are wasting the most valuable resource you have on the ice, time. Instead of being paralyzed by this myth, you can be more active and mobile. The run and gun or hole-hopping style of ice fishing is so effective precisely because it defies this old myth. Anglers who use this strategy drill a hole and fish it almost immediately. If they don't get a bite in 5 or 10 minutes, they move on, drill another hole, and repeat the process. They are covering more water and presenting their bait to more active fish, and they succeed because the auger noise isn't the deal breaker we thought it was. Instead of focusing on the auger, focus on your at-the-hole stealth. Once the auger breaks through, your mission changes. Your new job is to minimize your impact. When you clear the slush from the hole, do it as quietly and smoothly as possible. Don't bang the skimmer against the ice. Try to avoid walking directly over the hole or letting your shadow pass across it, especially in the first few minutes. Set your gear down gently. Once you are set up to fish, limit your movement. Don't pace back and forth. Be conscious of every step you take. This is what truly makes a difference. The best ice anglers are not the ones who drill their holes an hour before fishing. They are the ones who are as quiet as a heron, stalking its prey once their line is in the water. The stealth begins after the drilling ends. Let's also consider the difference between types of augers. For decades, the gas auger was seen as the ultimate sin because it was the loudest to our ears. Electric augers gained a reputation for being stealthy because they are so much quieter in the air. But now we know that the airborne noise doesn't really matter. What matters is the vibration of the blades cutting the ice. And guess what? The blades on an electric auger and the blades on a gas auger create very similar low-frequency vibrations as they cut. Yes, the electric is smoother, but it's still a physical process of grinding and chipping. The difference in the type of vibration felt by the fish is likely minimal. The main advantage of electric isn't that it's quieter for the fish, but that it's lighter, cleaner, and more pleasant for the angler to use. Don't think that just because you have an electric auger, you can be careless at the hole. This knowledge should be empowering. It frees you from an old restrictive rule that wasn't based on science. You no longer have to feel like you're walking on a minefield, worried that starting your auger will ruin the entire day. It means you can be more adaptive. If you're marking fish on your flasher but can't get them to bite, you don't have to sit there for an hour. You can confidently get up, move 20 yards, drill a fresh hole, and be fishing again in minutes without the fear that you've just reset some imaginary spookometer for the whole area. This allows for a much more dynamic and responsive approach to ice fishing. You can actively hunt for fish instead of just passively waiting for them to come to you and forgive you for the noise you made an hour ago. It's a fundamental shift in strategy. Think about aggressive species like pike or lake trout. These fish are predators. Their brains are wired to investigate disturbances. A sudden vibration could signal a wounded baitfish. How many times has a pike screamed in and grabbed your lure just as you were jigging it right below the hole? They are often attracted to the activity, not repelled by it. For more skittish fish like shallow water crappies or heavily pressured perch, the secondary factors like light and shadow are far more critical, but even for them the distant sound of an auger is unlikely to be the primary reason they aren't biting. It's much more likely that they saw your silhouette or were put off by you stomping around right on top of them. The solution is the same. Focus on what you do after you cut the hole, not the act of cutting itself. So to wrap up this core idea, the great auger debate has been focusing on the wrong thing. It's a classic case of correlation being confused with causation. Anglers drill a loud hole, they are careless afterward, they don't catch fish, and they blame the loudest, most obvious event, the auger. They don't blame their own shadow or their heavy footsteps, but the science of sound transmission, combined with a better understanding of fish biology and countless hours of on-ice observation with modern electronics, tells a different story. The auger is just the doorbell. It announces that someone is at the door. How you behave once you're inside the house, the stomping, the shadows, the bright lights, is what determines whether the residents stick around or flee in terror. It's time we stop blaming the doorbell for our own poor house guest etiquette. Let's try a little thought experiment. Imagine two anglers. Angler A uses a loud gas auger. He drills one hole, then very quietly clears the slush. He kneels down to avoid casting a shadow and gently lowers his lure. He stays perfectly still. Angler B uses a silent hand auger. After he drills, he stands up, stomps his feet to get warm, walks around the hole, and his shadow repeatedly crosses it. Which angler do you think has a better chance of catching a fish that is sitting right under the hole? It's Angler A, without a doubt. The tool he used to make the hole is far less important than his behavior after the hole was made. This is the new mindset we need to adopt. It's not about the noise of the machine, it's about the stealth of the fisherman. That simple shift in focus can and will make you a more successful ice angler. So there you have it. We've drilled down through the ice and into the science here. The long-held belief that your auger's engine noise is spooking fish from 100 yards away is, for the most part, a myth. The ice and snow act as a massive sound barrier, blocking the high-frequency engine whine you hear and only allowing low-frequency vibrations from the cutting blades to pass through. The real turning point, the aha moment in all this, is realizing that fish are far more afraid of what happens after. The hole is drilled. They are spooked by the sudden blast of light from above, the terrifying silhouette of a predator passing over them, and the sharp, immediate vibrations of your boots on the ice right over their heads. The problem isn't 100 yards away, it's right under your feet. This completely changes the game. It means you can stop wasting precious time letting a spot cool down and adopt a more aggressive, mobile approach. You can drill and fish, moving until you find them, freed from a myth that was holding you back. Thank you so much for watching and for being willing to challenge some old-school thinking. If this video helped you, or even just made you think, do me a favor and hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed for more fishing content that gets straight to the point. Now for my final question to you. What is the biggest, most ridiculous ice fishing myth you've ever been told? Drop it in the comments below. I can't wait to read them.